Hello, Humane marketers. Sarah Znakrocha here. Welcome to another episode of the Humane Marketing Podcast, a place to be for the generation of marketers who cares. This is the show where we talk about marketing your business in a way that feels good to you, is aligned with your values, and also resonates more with your conscious customers because it's not pushy, ethical, and also beautiful. So if you're a regular here, you know that I'm organizing the conversations around the 7 Ps of humane marketing. And if you're new here and this is your first time, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. You may want to download your one-page marketing plan with the 7 Ps of humane marketing in the form of a mandala at humane.marketing/one page, the number one and page. So again, humane.marketing/one page. And with that, with no further ado, let's dive into today's conversation. Hi, Erno. It's good to have you on the Humane Marketing Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah.
It's good
to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be with you at a distance. We are one of those few people who met in real life, which is always nice, right? To have this human connection.
Yeah.
And that was in Co this summer, earlier this summer. So I thought, why not follow up with somebody who's in the same kind of movement, talking about inner to outer. And then I looked you up and you were talking about decision-making, decisions with impact. I'm like, ooh, yeah, that makes for a good conversation. So let's talk about decisions. And I guess we're going to go into habits as well, because that kind of goes together. But let's start with decisions. Like I looked it up. It's something like 35,000 decisions every day. Is that possible? Like, do you know that how that's been measured? But it seems like a lot of decisions every day.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the exact number is. What the thing is, if you look at the work of a book, what's his name? I forgot his name. Daniel Lieberman? No, that's not the one.
Don't know which one. Your Atomic Habits?
No, it doesn't
another
really
one.
matter. But
Okay.
what you have what he calls system 1 and system 2 parts of your brain. Well, they're not actually parts of your brain, but that's how they respond. And I think it's just everything is derived from, habits is derived from that idea that what you want to do is whenever you have a decision to make, that most of the decisions that you make are pretty automatic. Like if you count 6 + 1, you know the answer, right? You know the answer is 7, and it's automatic. You don't have to think about it. Well, you actually do think about it, but you're not consciously thinking about the topic. And because it's been so ingrained into your brain that you can instantly say the thing. And the same happens, for example, by putting on clothes on in the morning for most people, or brushing your teeth, because it's stuff that you regularly do at the same time, after, like, something you did before that's related to brushing your teeth or taking a coffee, whatever it is. It's a very regular thing that we do. But in theory, they're all decisions, right? They're all decisions that we make. I'm going to brush my teeth now, yes or no, right? But if you think about conscious decisions that we really need to think about, that's really a conscious part that we need to think about. You try to minimize those because it costs a lot of energy of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And our brain already consumes a lot of energy. In total of our body, it consumes the most energy that we do. And we want to try to minimize that, by just automating decisions and only think about the decisions that really are difficult or important to us. Like longer term decisions, or things that you don't know the answer to, you haven't ever seen before, new situations that you're in. So, for example, if you see a lion, your automatic decision, even if you have never seen a lion, is to run as fast as we can. And what happens in your brain is it shuts down, this part in the front of your brain where you regularly, really consciously think. Because if you need to think about, oh, this is a lion, so would he attack me? Maybe what kind of color does he have? How fast is he running? And all this stuff. If that's going to happen in your brain, by the time you stopped thinking and you made a decision, you've probably already been, attacked by the lion, and you have no time left. So all this stuff, even if you haven't been in a situation, then sometimes we exactly know how to respond, and you don't really think about it. But there's other situations where you really need to think about it, and it all comes down to like thousands of decisions a day, and that's why it's important to save energy by creating habits. And the most, difficult part, of course, is that we create habits that contribute to the things that we want to accomplish, that the things that we stand for, that undescribes our values, and all these things that are important to us, that we really do make automatic decisions that really, support us in what we really want to accomplish.
Yeah, it sounds like there's two separate or different things. One thing is creating habits for the decision fatigue, almost like, the small things. What do I eat for breakfast? I remember hearing Tim Ferriss talk about that back in the days when he wrote the 4-Hour Workweek book. And it's kind of like, oh, it's the same thing every day. And that just takes one decision away from your day, and works pretty well for me. I have my oatmeal every morning, and it's just like, I love it. I actually look forward to it. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, I don't have to think about it. And so the other thing we can then do is also build on habits. Because I eat my oatmeal, that means that then after I'll have my tea, and then after I'll do my yoga. So they all kind of go together, right? So that's one thing, and that it's great. But then what you also talked about is the bigger decisions, and that's really what I want to talk about with you. Is like decisions for impact, right?
Mhm.
But they go together, because I feel like if we spend or waste our time on all the small little decisions, then we probably don't have the time or the spaciousness to actually invest and think about the bigger decisions that have a bigger impact. So let's go there. Like, how can we know and identify what truly matters and make decisions from that place? I think that's what it comes down to, is like, how do we know? In the inner development goals, one of the skills is the inner compass, right? So like, how do we go there and make decisions from that inner compass?
Yeah, I just want to come back to it because previously I was referring to the book Thinking Fast and
Okay.
Slow. This is by Daniel Kahneman. He passed away last year, or earlier this year. But he's done some great research on thinking and on decision making. And I think thinking about the larger, more important things to us in life are not really um, you don't have less time to think about those things by being consumed of smaller things to think about, because in general I don't think if it's smaller you don't think about it. But if you look at the inner compass, it gives you a so what the inner compass does to me, I want to make this personal because maybe it works differently for you. But if I use the inner compass, I have like an idea, a vision. It's related to my values of what I want to accomplish in life, what is important to me, what are, what's the things that I feel is true or false or important, or something that I have influence on, for example, right? So there's also, in my opinion, there's no real reason to be really busy about things you don't have influence on. And if you know that, if you know what your compass is if you know what your true north is, or your north star, then it becomes a lot easier to make decisions. Because what I do then is whenever a decision comes to me, for example, if somebody asks me if I want to join this group or this team, or if I want to do this work or I want to work with this client, I can start by looking at my inner compass, and that goes pretty fast, seeing if this really helps me, if it supports the compass, or it's just a different direction, or it will just pull me away from my compass. And everything that aligns with it, that's, that helps me to basically say yes in the, as a starter. And then I can look into deeply, do I have time for it now? Does it, how much work is it? So all the other decisions that come after that. So weeding out most of the decisions by just looking at my compass, my inner compass, and seeing all the decisions that I have to make, or questions that be asked to me, or interviews I need to do, which don't align with my compass, I can just say easily no to, right? So that already shifts so many things from my plate that that frees up time. These are not small decisions; they are all big decisions, but they free up time by just making very quickly, okay, does it align with my compass, my values, yes or no? And I think that mostly helps me. And the other thing, which doesn't really have to do a lot with decision making, but well, maybe it does, because we consume a lot of media every day. So we use social media, we see the news, we read newspapers, we listen to a podcast, or we watch the news. So we consume a lot of media in general as humans every day. With social media, even more than ever, I would say. And also with social media, by these algorithms, the timelines are a lot influenced, biased. So they are biased with opinions of others that are like us. So people that we kind of trust, or people that we feel have similar opinions to us, we see more of those messages or opinions or whatever coming by. And we kind of get like numb for those things, especially when we see a lot of news that's negative, that's like about war, or about floods or droughts. And especially when it's far away, we see so much negative news. So we kind of like become numb for those images. And at the same time, we also become like fatigued from that information. It clutters up our brains. And the weird thing, of course, is it doesn't have a lot to do with our decisions, but because it's about, frightening situations, about terrifying situations like a war, or like you see people in the floods, you see cars flowing away in Austria by a river that's overflowing. And then our brain tells us there is something really terrifying going on, and it goes like in sort of like fight flight mode, and makes a decision. What can I do now? And in general, we can't do anything. It's far away. We don't have to do anything. There's not a lot that we can do, but it fatigues our brain. And that to me doesn't really have to do a lot with decision making, but our brain feels like it needs to make decisions. And the best way to make this less of a burden to you is to avoid news, or make the amount of news or media that you consume less. And the ones that you do consume that is related to your inner compass, for example, that's the information that you're really interested in, make that more. So make sure that you get a wider perspective on the situation, so that you have a clearer view on everything, and not just the negative part, but also the positive part, and the less biased parts, so that it all becomes more a really evaluated information flow that you can trust and think, okay, now I can really make decisions. Can I do something? What can I do? And then you can think about what is it that I actually can do. And that, I think, also helps you to become more impactful, because it will tell you the things you can do. And that feels like I'm making an impact. That feels also you have, less feeling that you're like not able to do anything about it, and just becoming fatigued from information without doing anything about it. So to me, that is like a way of reducing decision making, between brackets, quotes, I would say. But it's not really, it's just the brain thinking it needs to make decisions, and there's really nothing to decide because you can't do anything about it right now. So that, I would say, is going to help you more with reducing fatigue of your brain, of decision fatigue.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up with the media. It's true. I didn't think of asking anything about that, but it's so related because it all comes back to spaciousness, and that's kind of like my favorite word these days. And so we eliminated the small decisions because we created healthy habits. But then you're right, our brain is still bombarded with all the media stuff. So we need to also block that out. So then we just have this like quiet space where we can actually focus on the decisions that do have an impact. And the other thing you said, that the decisions that we actually can control, right? What's in our control and what isn't. And it's true. I saw myself scrolling through YouTube with all the floods and, in Eastern Europe and things like that. And it's okay to be informed, but it's not okay to then kind of feel, frozen almost, like, what do I do now? Like it's almost like you get into this mini depression and feel like everything I do is basically pointless because it's all going to shits. So yeah,
Which isn't
staying.
true either, right?
No, which
It's
isn't true. It's just like, yeah, exactly. And I remember I was spending a lot of time in the sustainability field, and it was like just so negative. Everything was, that was being shared was negative. And that's why I then moved to the IDGs, the inner development goals, because I'm like, I can't, if we're all burning out because we feel like nothing can be done and it's all doomed, then that's not helping anybody. And so decisions for impact to me means decisions coming from a good place, a healthy place, right? So that's why I think your opinion about, creating barriers around ourselves to keep us sane and healthy and in a good space so that we can make those good decisions is really important.
Yeah, and I think, to be clear, I do believe that we are going to shit. So I do believe that the way that we're acting today as humans um, is just ending our lives as humans on the planet, right? It's not ruin the planet, but the planet will continue to turn for millions of years when we've gone. Probably even do better without us. And that doesn't mean that until that time, we can do a lot to improve our lives, right? So if we look, for example, at the floods and droughts that are getting closer to us, right? We see floods closer in Europe, let's say, for example. We see floods to spaces or places and cities that we've been on holiday, and it becomes like closer to us. We see, oh my gosh, I've been there. I've stood on that bridge. I've walked through that town, and the river was so quiet and nice. And now look at what's going on. And but this has been going on in countries around the equator for many years. Like in India, it's plus 50 degrees. It's sometimes unlivable. Droughts in Africa, Northern Africa, for a longer time. And it's all due to the things that we are doing on the planet, like burning fossil fuels. So if you look at that picture, everything that we know from science, everything that we know that scientists have been telling us for years, are true. And we're just warming up the planet with burning fossil fuels. And right now, it doesn't seem that a lot of people think that we need to change this, or not. At least the actions don't show it. right? So we keep supporting fossil fuels, we keep buying cars, we keep buying new stuff, and working with plastic. So there's a lot going on that I believe that will, make this planet unlivable for humans and other animals.
Which brings me to courage, because I think courage is needed for any kind of change making, and especially for decisions with impact. So how can we encourage people to use more courage when it comes to decision making, and stand up for their values and worldview?
I think it has a lot to do with creating a perspective of what you can do as an individual. So if you believe that everything that's going on around you is out of your control, you can't do anything about it, then you will just be staying and living the way that you do now. You're watching your Netflix and you just go to your sports and you just go to your office and do your work that you need to do, or to the company that you work, and you just think, okay, I'm gonna live my life and I'm gonna just earn money and just continue the way that I do, because I don't see any way how I can change this. So what we want to do is tell stories. I was going to say paint pictures, but I think telling stories is better. Tell stories how we as individuals can make changes, and especially in relation to what is close to us. And I'm thinking about the book Saving Us, by Catherine Hayhoe, and she is a professor in climate. And what she's telling in the book, and Saving Us is about, normally would say saving the planet, but this is about saving the humans, right? So, and what she's saying is that she's sharing stories with groups of people talking about climate, but every time when she is in front of a group, she's translating that topic to the values of those people that she's talking to. So she's looking at the values of the group of people that she's talking to, sees what is important to them in relationship to the climate, and then shines a light on that part of the topic. So, for example, when she's talking about to farmers, she's talking about droughts and talking about having floods, about crops that go to waste because there's not enough water. And then they understand, yeah, this is really going on. We've been seeing that in our own farm, that this is happening right now. And then they listen to, so what can we do to change this? And then you can give them some steps to what they can do on their farm to make changes slowly to overcome and at least change that situation. So to me, it is about a lot about telling stories and making sure it relates to the values of the people. So because then you can, you don't need a lot of courage to start working on this. You just need the right courage. You just need the courage that fits with your values. And if it's close to your values, it doesn't cost a lot. It's just another step of what you've been doing. It's not like something completely different that you're picking up now, right? So I think it has to do with making visual what the small next step is for the person that's sitting across to you, what they can do as a next step. And then courage is just, it's just a small part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of brings us to marketing, because you're on a podcast called Humane Marketing, and so people could go, well, what does all of that have to do with marketing? Well, it has a lot to do with marketing, because storytelling and marketing are essentially the same thing nowadays, and so what Humane Marketing also stands for is to encourage change makers to talk more about things that matter, and the values that they stand for, and the world, their worldview. So it's all related. And if we bring that back to decision making, help me out here. Like the decisions I think the decisions is, do I stand for something, and do I bring that into my marketing. That's what I always encourage my clients to say, well, make your worldview your niche. So meaning bring your worldview into your business, into your marketing, and tell these stories, that also can influence other people, not just to make them buy your stuff, but to make a change, right? That's in the end, that's what we all want.
Yeah, and the scary part maybe here is if you bring a story to your world which your world isn't ready for right now or is not familiar with, that's a scary view, right? Making a decision: do I want to incorporate that in my marketing? What if nobody likes it? So there's a lot of
Well, there's the
things.
courage, right?
Yes,
That's the
yes.
courage. And
But
I think,
what you can do is if you make, I like the phrase "doing good louder." I forgot who I first heard it from, but doing good louder means so you do something to improve your life, to improve other people's lives, to make like a better future. And and often these are very small steps. There's small things that you do to make a difference. And we don't talk about it because we feel it's small. It's like tiny. Nobody cares about that. But a lot of people don't know about this, what they can do, and they're looking for examples. They're looking for how do I do this? And so if you talk more in marketing about the things that you already are doing as a company, not as a greenwashing thing, but as like real examples of what you're really doing, I think that gives people perspective of what they can do, like real life examples of how they could do this in their company, in their business, or as a private person, as a consumer, how they can do this, right? So to me, yes, painting a picture, telling a story to attract clients is attract people, I would say, even better, is a good thing. That's great. And I would say if you start talking more about the things that you're already doing that look very tiny and small to you, but other people have never heard about it. They don't know how to start there. They don't know what to do. Like there is this challenge in the Netherlands, which is buying no new stuff for a year. So it started really small with just a couple of people joining the challenge. And what it did was bringing people along because it's something that everybody can do. They can think about the decisions they make about buying stuff. Because if something breaks down, you need to buy something new, or you see something in, in Instagram or Facebook, whatever. You see something, you think about buying that, and every time you do this and you're part of this challenge, you go like, okay, do I really need this? And is there a different thing that I can do? If let's say, okay, I agree, I really need this because I've just broken something. I really need the same thing again because I need this stuff in my life. Can I get it secondhand? Can I get it fixed? Right. So then by becoming a part of this challenge and looking at all these decisions, you can make like these small changes, which in the end reduces your consumerism, which has a great impact on, trash or plastics or, burning fossil fuels. There's a lot of things that goes into consumerism. It's one of the biggest causes of the shit that's going on today. If I bring it really negative. Yeah. So yeah, I think it has a lot to do with just being the example, living like an example, not to be saying, oh, I'm the best at this, but just showing how it can be done.
I like that. And it's true. So many small stories where we think, oh, well, I've been doing this for a long time. It's obvious, and probably thinking everybody's doing it. And yet you find out, no, they never heard of it. I had never heard of a challenge like that. And it's a great idea because the minute also you get into community and more than just one person doing it, there's just some different energy to it, and it's kind of the motivation, the exchange of motivation that is really encouraging.
And I'm talking about marketing, right? If you look at marketing as an organization, as a company, you can do the same. Yeah, you can build like a community around your company or your goals or your vision, and do the same. Just by sharing the stories, helping people to tag along, and just do stuff like you do, and the group that do stuff like you do just grows, and more people will become like you because they do the stuff like you do, and they like it a lot because they feel like they are connected, they are a part of this group, and that's what we all as humans like. We need to be like part of a group of humans that we can feel related to. So if you are an organization or a company, yes, please do spend a lot of your energy in marketing and resource in your marketing on building that community, setting an example and showing these examples so that people can follow you, and not just to be like a leader as like an ego kind of thing, but be a leader as in like building a community, and that people have examples how they could change and feel a part of this, right? So feel like I'm one of those people who's making a change, and it feels good.
Yeah, it's like belonging is probably the word that comes up, and that's exactly what we're craving at this time, because we just feel so separated, and we're basically numbing ourselves with buying and making all these stupid tiny decisions that that are taking up too much of our time. As we're coming full circle in this chat, I would love for you to share, Erno, an example. So you shared the challenge, but maybe an example of a personal decision that you've made in recent years that had a huge impact on your life or career.
It's of course a very difficult question. There've been millions of decisions, right? If you look at like 30,000 per day or 40,000 per day, there's been millions of decisions that has made a change for me, because um, I have what I call a decision book,
Mm.
and a part of what I use in my practice, in my coaching practice, is if you have a larger decision, a tough decision, you really want to think it through. So the decision book helps you to think it through. It's for free, so you can just download it and use it yourself. But the important part is that you write the stuff down, how you thought about the decision, what decision you made, why did you make this decision, what influenced it, what else could you have done. So everything are in questions in the decision book, and the writing down and looking back at the decision making process afterwards is so important to improve your decision making process.
Mm.
Because a lot of people think if you look at the results of the decision, that will help you to improve the process. But that's not true. The process isn't part of it in itself. So you have the decision making process. So you think about the decision, you think about everything that you couldn't do, what the effects are, and then you make the decision, and then you act on the decision. But after that, a lot of things can happen in life and can make a lot of changes to what's going on, and you have no control over that, right? So there's stuff happening outside your control, but it influences your decision, or actually the results of your decision, but you don't control it. So this could happen like a toss of a coin. What would be the result? But by looking back at the decision-making process, like after a couple of months, you improve the process by looking, okay, what I could have done differently in that process at that moment, and how would that maybe have impacted my decision? Not the results, but my decision. And I think that's one of the things that I feel is really important to me, is by carefully examining which decisions do I need to write down and write out and completely analyze, and then look back afterwards to see how I can improve my decision-making process. That's one thing. The other part is I've been mentioning this the last couple of months for a couple of times, is becoming part of the Inner Development Goals network, especially the Global Practitioners Network. At some point, I was asked to join the Global Practitioner Network team, who organizes the meetings every month. And by becoming part of that team, of how the way that the team together organizes the events, prepare for the events, have discussions, has taught me so much about looking at people, about being grateful, about space for silence, about asking how people are doing during the discussions. Because sometimes if you look in normal business life, normal, we don't have time or don't feel the space to really check how people are doing after something weird happened in a discussion. But here, it's like ingrained in a team, and it makes so much of a difference of how the dynamics is going on in the team, and how I feel related to these people. And that to me has taught me so much in the last 2 years that I think this may be, and it's, yeah. The weirdest thing, of course, is that sometimes you feel like, because you ask this question, so how a decision has really made an impact and change that made an impact to you, the impact is in fact really tiny. But the results, if you stack them up, it's huge. But since it's like an everyday process or every week or whatever, you don't notice it. It's become like a new normal to you. It's become a new normal how you respond. For example, we do these check-ins, and since we do them at every meeting, it becomes a very normal thing to do check-ins at meetings. So every time I have other meetings, I try to propose, it doesn't always happen, like do a check-in. And what I see then, for example, one of the team members doing, she's thanking the other people who's done a check-in before her, and then builds upon that. It's a very different thing, and you could say difficult thing for me to do, to thank people and be, thoughtful about what they said, and instead of just thinking about me, just thinking about them and what they said, and using that as a bridge to continue. And I'm trying to incorporate that in the way that I now communicate with people, to be grateful and to be saying thank you for what they do. And it's changed the way that I communicate it now so much that and again, once you do that, it becomes like the new normal. It becomes so normal that you don't see it as a new thing or a new impact thing or like a great decision that you've made and how it changed your life, because it's just a tiny thing, but it did change my life. I know that now, and I see it now.
I love that. Yeah, it made you become a different person. And I think that's also that's the power of these decisions, and then the habits that go with it, because what you just described is a habit. Okay,
Yes.
each meeting we begin with a check-in. That has become a habit, and so it's become part of who you are, right?
Yes.
So that's really, yeah, that's the outcome or the result. At the same time, I would say it's the impact, because man, it's just like, yeah, you're a different person than you were before. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but if you look at like from a very timeline point of view, you could look at it like it is, or let's say before situation, after situation, right? So you have the before, so you didn't know this, and after it's like the new normal.
Right. Yeah.
In between that phase, you're constantly thinking about, okay, I need to do the check-in with this team, and I need to thank the people who have come before me, even though this group isn't used to it and they may think I'm weird, but I have to do this to get into this habit myself.
Right.
And at some point, it becomes like the new normal, and it's like a habit, like you just mentioned. So it's the new situation, and then everything before that is like, okay, this is normal to me. I have no, it doesn't really stand out anymore. And it has hugely impacted my life, but it's the new normal now. So do you think, did it really impact me? Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of the, the little drips on a rock. It's like, well, it's just one tiny drip. Yeah, but over time, well, that can create a huge crater or whatever. So yeah, it really is very, very powerful. And it shows that we can change. So habits usually are kind of like criticized, and people say, well, I can't change. I'm just like that, right? Well, no, you can change. And so I guess that's the encouragement I'd like to leave listeners with today, that yeah, you can make decisions that have a huge impact. Probably not the week after, but just like Erno said, 2 years later, you're a different person. So yeah, thanks so much for giving us all this food for thought, Erno. Please do share again where people can find you and where they can find your decision book to download.
I think the best and easiest way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. It's just Erno Hannink, but you put the link in the show notes. And the decision book can be found at ernohannink.com. Just look for decision book there, and you find it, and you can just download it. It's just, you can use it as a PDF, I believe. You can use it as a document that you can just edit in your favorite Word editor, or you can use in Notion, which is also a great tool I like. I have a template for that too.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. I have one last question. I'm working on a book called Business Like We're Human, and I'm asking my podcast guest, what comes up for you when you hear business like we're human? What kind of thoughts come to your mind?
I think in general, um, what we believe is the way that our economical system works today. That's like definitive. That's the only true economical system that we know, and there's nothing else. And this is the only right thing, right? So having like a gross national product, looking at growth, endless growth, um, also, also in businesses, right? So thinking about every year you need to add 10% to your revenue and to your profits and everything. So the endless growth, it's everywhere. So and if you then think about the human part, as humans, we are not growing endlessly. We have a lifetime to grow, and then it ends. And what we do in that time is to pass on our knowledge to the next generation, right? We try to give them ideas, seeds. I would say if you look at nature, we give them seeds to build their own garden, their own forest. And I think that looking at that way of business is there's not always, we don't always need to grow. We don't need to always think about making money with our business. We can also think about how we make impact, or how we support other people in our neighborhood, or how we support our parents. And I think we don't see that as business, but it is a part of our human life. It's about who we are as humans. So to me, I would say humans are closer to nature than to business. And the way that we look at business is just a couple hundred years old. So if it's that young, we should be able to change it to something that is more regenerative, more friendly. It takes more care about well-being than about welfare. So to me, business is closely related to economics, and to me, that shouldn't be. Business should be more related to nature. So that's what I think about when you just give me that line.
Love it. Thank you so much. I might just mention you in the book. So,
thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's been fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. It was great to be here.
Thanks so much for watching and being part of a generation of marketers who cares for yourself, for your clients, and for the planet. We really are change makers before we are marketers. So go ahead, be the change you want to see in the world. And I hope to see you again next week. Take care.